We start in March, to be exact, the 24th of March, that being the graduation ceremony for the third years. This was an event that marked the end of their journey, the end of their high school life, but also the start of a new journey. This was something even Kiyotaka wanted to watch. He was curious of what would become of the battle between Nagumo and Horikita Manabu. For Kiyotaka, he did not know if Nagumo was able to stop Manabu from graduating from Class A. One could say he was excited. It being the morning, Kiyotaka was ready to head out his dorm. He left and met with Keisei, who then talked about the events of the past volume, that being volume 11. Video in the description, go check it out if you haven't already. And he mentioned that they tried so hard to reach Class C, only to be demoted again. The class standings as of late March. Class A, 1,131 points. Class B, 550 points. Class C, 347 points. And Class D, 508 points. From the looks of this, Class C was still Class C, but that's only because the rankings would be confirmed at the start of each month. Meaning when the next term starts, Class C will once again be Class D. And goddamn, I gotta say, the difference in points from Class A to B is wild. Almost 600 points to be exact. Makes me wonder what the hell the other classes can do to close the gap, because at the moment, it's really big, and I only see it getting even more bigger. Not to mention if you count the start of the year where every class started with 1,000 points. Class A now overtook that. Kiyotaka mentions that they lost all their points around that time, and when you think about it, Class C, or Class D should I say, only gained around 347 points in the entire year. But not all hope is lost. He also sees it as their class being the fastest in gaining points, as Class A being the runner-up with only gaining 191 points this year. With Hirata and Horikita's leadership along with everybody's ever-growing abilities within Class C, I'm sure they'll rise to the top yet again. Kiyotaka and Keisei then talk about Katsuragi, mainly going into the topic if he would ever switch classes, betraying Class A. Kiyotaka thinking the odds were 50 or 1% chance of this. Both Kiyotaka and Keisei knew they made mistakes with this. I know they can't erase the past, so it's better to just reflect on it and move on. Keisei asks Kiyotaka what Horikita said about the loss, to where Kiyotaka says she didn't blame him, but next time if he had an idea to tell her about it, and also advised him not to rush anything. Keisei understands Horikita is smart and athletic, but he doesn't know why she's the class leader due to her condescending attitude towards people. Not even Kiyotaka could deny the point he made. Horikita isn't the same type of leader as Hirata or Ichinose. She's different in many ways. I'd say with Hirata and Ichinose, they have more of a caring attitude. Whereas Horikita, as Keisei just said, she has more of a condescending attitude that a lot of people see. Keisei then states he won't follow Horikita blindly, and he will call out if he believes she's made a mistake. Kiyotaka thought that was fine, as he knows Horikita makes mistakes from time to time. She's just a high school girl after all. Moving on now, in the gymnasium. Both students and teachers were lined up watching the graduation ceremony. Both figures seen and some not seen before were all present. As Kiyotaka watched, the boy had a thought. What would my position be on that stage 2 years later? What would I be thinking of them? He said that he still wants to believe after deciding the route in his life, he can still paint these events in his heart, along with wanting to believe that what he learned in the school will be crucial to survival. Next, I want to invite the students who, after 3 years of hard work, have graduated in Class A up to the stage, said the host through the microphone, as the quiet gymnasium cloaked in an even deeper silence. Class A's representative. If a classmate was called out that wasn't Manabu or one of his classmates, that means the results of the final special exam had changed the rankings of the third year. Horikita Manabu, please come to the stage. After that name was called, Horikita probably had been relieved from the bottom of her heart. Manabu's speech then started. He first showed his gratitude to the whole ceremony, then reflected on what happened the past 3 years. Manabu said that he remembered the first day he stepped foot into school. He felt a different atmosphere compared to other schools. As he was shouldering the burden of the future, he vowed he would make these 3 years a meaningful one. Kiyotaka felt a warmth in the assertive and composed nature of his speech. He also felt the man up on the stage felt like a different one to the beginning of the year. After a few minutes, the speech started to wrap up. Manabu stated the person on the stage next year will know exactly how he feels. Kiyotaka thinks to himself that the person is most likely Nagumo. Then thinks about the students in the first year and who would come out on top, but then again realized only 1/3 of their school life had passed. There was still 2 left. Thank you, all of you, for the past 3 years. The speech then ended, the ceremony moved on to the next stage. After the ceremony, everyone returned to their classrooms. Trabashira then took this time to talk about the class. She mentioned as opponents of Class A, their results were commendable, and other teachers were surprised. Even her impression of the class had totally changed since the beginning of the year. But Sensei, we're going back to becoming Class D again. Does that mean we're still failures? Ike said, being upset obviously. God damn, so this motherfucker Ike, this guy never knows, huh? When to speak. I swear, I'm gonna pray for this man's downfall in year 2, I'm telling you. Trabashira then says at first glance, it doesn't seem like they've gone back to square one. She told him compared to the 4 Class D she's taught, they're a step up. Trabashira then wrapped up the conversation. She told him tomorrow is the closing ceremony and there's no classes. Horikita just sat there and stared motionlessly at the blackboard, thinking deeply. Kiyotaka knew if he carelessly poked at the snake, it would bite back, but he tried to ask anyway. Are you going? What are you referring to? That. It should be clear what I mean. Horikita understood, and then asked if it's to see Manabu, when she has no plans to go. Kiyotaka asks further, have you gotten the chance to talk to him? Ohirita started to bite back, asking what it has to do with him, and they have their own problems. I'll go see him, said Kiyotaka. He then stood up. Kiyotaka said all the teachers were required to go to the thank you meeting, and not even Tsukishido could get away with not participating. We then flash back to yesterday, the night the event selection exam ended. Kiyotaka had called a certain someone. Hello, Sakinagi here. It was the voice of a calm adult. You see, the person who Kiyotaka had called wasn't Sakinagi Arisu, but in fact her father, Chairman Sakinagi, who was under house arrest due to a trap by Tsukishido. Sorry to bother you late this night. It's Ayanokoji. Ayanokoji? Are you Kiyotaka Ayanokoji? Hearing that name, Chairman Sakinagi understood and continued speaking in a surprised tone. Kiyotaka said sorry for calling so suddenly, but Sakinagi was just surprised how he had his number. But Kiyotaka said he asked Arisu what number he should dial when he wanted to get in contact with an important figure in school. It turns out even the chairman would tell his daughter his phone number. Even he wouldn't take sides. It seems like he really loved his daughter. Well, that's what he thought, but the chairman's response, what? Then went on to say he never told his daughter his number and asked where she found it. He said this with a forced smile. From the way he said it, it did not sound fake. Kiyotaka asked if the number was supposed to be a secret, to where he confirms. He wonders why Sakinagi would take this number down, and thinks if he should anticipate he would be in trouble one day and ask for the number. How should I react to your parents, said the chairman. Kiyotaka asked if there was rules against him calling the chairman. This would need to be confirmed before moving on. Actually, there isn't a rule like that, so I won't be hanging up now. They can now advance the topic. Although the chairman said it would be best if the phone call was ended as soon as possible and asked what Kiyotaka wanted. Kiyotaka asked about his house arrest, where the chairman said that question is very direct and inappropriate for a student to ask about. In the end, he politely avoided this question. But the problem was this question was tied into the thing he wanted to talk about. Kiyotaka went on further asking again to where the chairman said he cannot answer and has no reason to tell him why. He says he knows this very well but has his reasons. It was looking like the chairman was going to hang up, but Kiyotaka stopped him saying, if he did that, then they'll never be able to get rid of the foreign existence at this school. But the chairman questioned this. Kiyotaka said he was referring to Tsukishido, getting straight to the point saying Tsukishido had intervened in an exam. The chairman was confused and asked what the hell was going on. He even questioned why Tsukishido would do this, as he was already a powerful man and had no reason to target his position. But that's not his objective, said Kiyotaka. His objective was to expel him. He asked Kiyotaka if Ayanokoji sensei was trying to retrieve him through this method. The chairman went back to what Kiyotaka said, that being about the external obstruction at the end of the exam, but also asked if there was any actual damage done. I'll explain in detail, said Kiyotaka. As he continued to explain things further, his responses faded. That's the situation. Will you believe it? If it was a normal situation, this would have seemed like a prank, but the chairman knows Kiyotaka's father, and he knows his past. He had no choice but to believe. He understands why he contacted him, that being to get his help. But before that, I'd like to ask, no, I'd like you to confirm something, said the chairman. He mentioned that facing Tsukishido can intervene even in a special exam will be extremely difficult. Yet he remains calm. He continues saying if he gets something wrong, he will correct it, but doesn't have the confidence nor position to make sure his expectations are met. What the chairman was trying to say is that if Kiyotaka was calling with high expectations, then he would have taken the wrong path. Indeed, if this were a call for help, that would be the case, said Kiyotaka. Carried on saying since joining the school he came wanting to live a life as an ordinary student for 3 years. It was also the first time in his life he set his own goals and sought about accomplishing them. Love hearing this from Kiyotaka, as he really wants to work towards something, from never having anything in his life that he's wanted to work towards, now having the chance. Makes you happy for him, doesn't it? Kiyotaka goes on to say if he lets Tsukishido carry on, then there's no way he can live his life at this school as a normal student. To sum it up, it's not like Kiyotaka called the chairman to get rid of Tsukishido himself. It's more like a protection point to prevent the consequences that may happen when he gets rid of Tsukishido himself. The chairman asks Kiyotaka if he can really stop Tsukishido. He replies saying he can't make the first move that will keep track of Tsukishido's actions, and continues saying he needs to do several things such as lay out the groundwork for their defense network. Kiyotaka needed someone who could closely monitor Tsukishido, someone who could actively fight against him and stop him from acting freely. Of course, the chairman mentions Chabashira, but whether she could be used or not was another thing. There had to be another person. This would be hard to explain to another teacher, but if Chabashira could confirm and elaborate on what happened, that would be a different story. After a while thinking, the chairman gave his answer. He said Class 1A's homeroom teacher, Mashima Sensei, would be the most suitable candidate, as he's the one in charge of the first year's examinations, as well as an excellent teacher who puts his students before anything else. What we also saw in Volume 11, in a meeting with Tsukishido, Mashima was really putting up a fight against him to protect his students. There's no doubt this man was trustworthy, but would he believe this story? Only time could tell. Kiyotaka needed a way to meet Mashima, so Tsukishido didn't know. He asked the director who gave him suggestions. Chairman said Kiyotaka should be able to do it after the graduation ceremony, as the director has to attend every year, meaning there would be a time period where Tsukishido would be busy. The graduation ceremony lasts around an hour, but can run up to 90 minutes, so it won't be a problem if 2 teachers disappeared for 20 to 30 minutes. As for the location, the reception room should be fine as there is no cameras. This way there will be no record of their meeting. The plan was set. Before ending the call, Kiyotaka apologized for calling the chairman so late. But he said he's okay, and wanted to ask something completely unrelated to this topic. That being if Kiyotaka has questioned what he wants to do after graduation, like what job he wants to do, and where he wants to go. Kiyotaka says he doesn't know how much the chairman knows, but his fate is already decided, meaning after graduating, Kiyotaka will return to the White Room and take up the role of the leader. It was kind of a harsh reality in this sense, but I have no clue how Kiyotaka will be able to stop this. Like, generally, as soon as he gets out to school, everyone's gonna come after him, and I don't see escape at this point in the story, at least. Kiyotaka said this is the reason he came here. He wanted to protect these 3 years to the very end. I hope this school will become a memorable part of your life. Thank you. I hope so too. With that, the call ended and Kiyotaka felt relieved. The next day, Kiyotaka heads to the reception room. After knocking, he was greeted by Chabashira. He asked where Mashima-sensei was, to where Chabashira replied saying she met up with him already, but it wasn't suitable for him to go with her. And also added this is a bold move from Kiyotaka, then questioned him wanting to live a peaceful life at school. Kiyotaka thought he would play along with her before Mashima arrived. You say that, but weren't you the one who initially disrupted my peaceful school life? No matter what, that isn't how you should speak to a teacher. I'd say my attitude is appropriate considering what you've done. God damn, it's getting intense already. And I'm on each stage a few sentences. Chabashira then looked away, seemingly ashamed, and said she can't deny that. Her desire to reach Class A was way too strong. She got to the point, and asked why Kiyotaka called her here, even though he hates her. At the very least, that's true. I don't like you, he said. But no matter what his true feelings were, he had to use whatever he could. How much did he tell you? Kiyotaka asked, referring to the chairman. He asked me to prepare the meeting by contacting Mashima-sensei and said you had something important to talk about. What's the reason you want to talk to us then? Asked Chabashira. I'll say it once Mashima-sensei comes. I don't want to say it twice. Although I don't know what you got yourself into. If you want my help, shouldn't you use a more suitable tone? She questioned Kiyotaka. Chabashira said as a teacher she will obey the words of the chairman, but his words aren't absolute. Do you dislike my attitude that much? Replied Kiyotaka. But Chabashira said she hated it. Even though he is an excellent student to an extent, he's only a first-year high schooler, and mentioned that he lost to Sakyonagi in the end-of-year exam, going on to say it looks like he doesn't have the extraordinary strength she expected of him. She added if Kiyotaka had the ability, she would tolerate him, but of what she's seen is the extent of his power, and it's a different story. She was slipping away from Kiyotaka, to where he no longer had the advantage. This conversation could make her refuse, and worst case join Sakishido's side. If Kiyotaka kept mentioning he wasn't in her control, it would only be counterproductive. Breathed out a sigh of relief, seeing Chabashira had some knowledge about him in the situation. I understand. My attitude would change, Chabashira-sensei. Chabashira said surprised by the statement Kiyotaka just gave. Kiyotaka had added that his way of thinking had changed, and after April he really plans to target Class A seriously. Chabashira, not buying it, asked what kind of joke this is, and asked what he was thinking. But Kiyotaka said he was completely serious and plans to break away from being labeled as Class C or D. He said due to the private point difference, there's no guarantee they will be able to rise to Class A, but is sure they'll reach the heights of Class B. Chabashira said he lost against Class A once again, which I don't blame her for. Like, in her eyes, Kiyotaka really did lose, but she don't know the truth, at least now. You'll learn the truth later, in the meeting. Learn the truth? She questioned. Kiyotaka said to listen to him until the end, and if she can't trust his strength, then she can do what she wanted. Chabashira wanted an answer, but was cut off by a loud knocking that blocked out her voice. It was Sakyonagi Arisu, along with Mashima-sensei. Kiyotaka didn't remember calling her. Didn't think Mashima-sensei would bring her himself. Sakyonagi said she is a student of Class A, so she's seen with Mashima isn't a problem. Mashima said he received a notification from Chabashira to come, but Sakyonagi said she was related to the incident, so she was brought with him. Kiyotaka questioned in his head why she was really here. Was she following orders, or was this mere curiosity? Not even Chabashira nor Mashima could understand why Sakyonagi was here. You seem to have something you want to say, Ayanokoji, making a special announcement through the chairman, allowing us to skip the closing ceremony? What's the big deal? What's going on? I'll explain that now, said Kiyotaka. He urged the 2 teachers to sit down, but Mashima urged Sakyonagi to sit first. The 3 people then looked at Kiyotaka. 20 to 30 minutes was the maximum amount of time they had to skip the ceremony, so time was minimal. Kiyotaka wanted to get straight to the point, but he didn't know how long it would take to convince them to understand. He decided to start with the matter with Sakishido. Kiyotaka mentioned that the reason they're here is due to important matters relating to Sakishido. Mashima then interjected and questioned what he was talking about, having a perplexed expression on his face. Chabashira also seemed unable to keep up with this, and turned her attention to Sakyonagi, who flashed an innocent smile. The expression what seemed to express a superior knowledge on the situation. Cheerful expression that could only be described as a classic manner of the girl. Kiyotaka continues saying the current events are affecting the school's operations and they can't ignore it. Mashima couldn't believe this and asked Chabashira for an explanation. Chabashira said she didn't know, and all she was told was to meet here by the chairman. Kiyotaka then continued. If I said I'm the reason Sakishido plays Chairman Sakyonagi, what would you say, Mashima-sensei? What? He questioned. That makes no sense. Why is it because of you? Of course this would be his natural reaction. He would have never thought a student could change for school like this. Kiyotaka went on. Let me explain what happened. Sorry, but is it alright if I explain? Sakyonagi had interjected and wanted to explain instead. She went on to say she understood the situation a little better than the teachers. Are you saying you've already heard about this from the chairman? No, it's just from what I've gathered. Ayanokoji and I... How should I say this? Put it simply, we're like childhood friends. She said, happily, while Kiyotaka wasn't sure how the others would react to this. I never expected you two to be childhood friends, replied Chabashira. Sakanagi then went on to explain. She mentioned the chess game and how it determined the outcome of the exam. She carried on. What if I said during the exam someone stepped in to interfere with the match? Wouldn't that be a serious issue? The teachers replied saying the exams are strict and there are no problems to how they are conducted. Sakanagi went on to say she was originally the loser of the game and Kiyotaka was the victor. Ayanokoji won that match, but I saw the results and I've also seen what happened during the match. Of course, being defeated, she seemed to care much more about this issue. You still don't get it? Sakanagi said to the teachers. They seemed to understand that Sakishido manipulated the results of the exam. Sakanagi explained it's not the result what was changed, but the process, and it's impossible to see the truth if one is bound by common sense, referring to the command what was changed to what Kiyotaka sent to Harikta during the exam. Even Kiyotaka wonders if they understood this. For the first time, doubts about Sakishido at the end of the exam flashed through Mashima's mind. Sakanagi went on to say if the right command was sent to Harikta, then it would have been her loss. She added that this was to get rid of his protection point and his goal was to expel Kiyotaka Ayanokoji. The two teachers did not speak, but before long Mashima went to confirm this Ayanokoji if this was true. He confirmed. Mashima said he's been teaching Sakanagi for a year and understands how she thinks in a way, therefore accepting some truth to this statement. Even Chabashiro thinks it's hard for anyone to accept. They asked if they had any evidence, to where they replied saying they received this improper behavior from Sakishido himself firsthand, and asked if they would believe them. Of course not, they replied. But I don't blame them. If someone told you the acting director had improper behavior, someone who's supposed to be so high up in the school, it pretty much seems impossible and really unlikely to happen. Mashima says it's so hard to believe there's a child Sakishido wants to get rid of, and adds that he doesn't want to doubt them, but what they're saying lacks any basis, as well as any evidence too. What kind of person are you, Ayanokoji? Please tell me. Even Kiyotaka knew this question was coming, and it was only a matter of time. He wondered if he should explain to have someone else. After no response, Chabashiro turned to Mashima and asked if he knew anything about Kiyotaka. He said only a little. She then glanced at Kiyotaka to where he coldly ignored her. There was no harm in Chabashiro telling some information about him. Chabashiro went on to say she looked at Kiyotaka's entrance paper, to where he scored 50 on all subjects. 50 points for each subject? Does that mean he deliberately tried to score half marks for every subject? Questioned Mashima. Chabashiro said if you investigate further, it's the truth. Oh, how intriguing, mentioned Mashima. Chabashiro added that the chairman told him he was a special student when he enrolled. Chairman Sakinagi said that? Is that why you're here, Chabashiro-sensei? And added that the chairman entrusted her as Kiyotaka's teacher. Well, damn, look at that turn out, huh? She explained that Kiyotaka's father is a very authoritative person, and he didn't want him to enter this school. Therefore, the chairman had to use various forceful methods to allow him to enter. Sakanagi said because of this fact, her father and Ayanokoji-sensei have some sort of relationship, and she sympathizes with the situation, and will assist him where it's needed. But now the problem with Sakishido has arisen, and Sakishido has fabricated evidence in order to become the director and get Kiyotaka expelled. Father was against his child from entering this school, so he sent the acting director Sakishido here, he questioned, and added if he could just complain to the school instead. Chabashiro mentioned he already came to the school himself, and the chairman rejected a withdrawal application. Chabashiro then added she didn't expect Sakishido to be sent to the school just for Kiyotaka, so what Sakinagi said is not a surprise, and she doesn't really know anything about the situation. He seems confident of that. Yes, I understand Ayanokoji can more than you do, Chabashiro-sensei. God damn, Sakinagi fighting for a man. Did you get jelly, huh? Mashima seemed to figure out what was happening, but still couldn't accept most of it. He said he doesn't know the extent to Kiyotaka's father, but asked why he had to expel him this way, mentioning it doesn't seem realistic, because Ayanokoji-kun possesses means that no other ordinary people do. Mashima added that he looked at his exam results in the past few days, and it seems his calculation and processing speed is top tier, but there are still other students like his, so it isn't enough to label him as an extraordinary specimen. Mashima closed his eyes and decided he was at his verdict. After staying silent for a while, he opened them and looked at everyone. Mashima understood the situation on the surface. Aren't you going to tell me everything? He asked. It seemed Mashima had figured out there was something that was kept hidden during the conversation, but if he couldn't decipher something on this level, Kiyotaka would be in trouble. Yeah, even if I told you, it wouldn't be of any help. No, it would be meaningless, replied Kiyotaka, who thought even if he told him everything about the White Room, the adults may not be able to understand it. What if I refused to assist you, said Mashima. But Kiyotaka added he wouldn't do anything about it, but it would be a headache when dealing with Sakishido. And in the process, it would be easier for him to intervene in school events like before. Are you trying to film me out, Ayanokoji? Questioned Mashima. He said fine, and in the end agreed to help out during the examinations and events so Sakishido does not illegally participate. Chabashiro added this wasn't easy, to where Mashima agreed, saying that if they weren't careful, they could be fired. They closed up running through everything, to where Mashima asked if there's really no evidence. The two said there isn't. But the only thing left to do is wait his next move. It's now been more than 30 minutes, so Mashima and Chabashiro need to get a move on. Tell the two to leave first and they will leave separately. Now at the room, Kiyotaka and Sakinagi exchange words, saying even if this doesn't stop Sakishido completely, it will restrain him a little bit. Sakinagi said she was just there for fun and asked if it bothered Kiyotaka. Wei said no, and helped him convince Mashima in the process. Well, that's great then. She She finished off saying she wouldn't allow the school to interfere in their battles any longer. Sakana was extremely angry at what Sakishiro did to her. This was just as personal for her as it was for Kiyotaka. Now the two students gone, the teachers talk in the room. I still can't believe what's happening, said Mashima. Chabashiro said she's the same, but what Kiyotaka said was true. Interfering with the very structure of a school just for one student? He explained. It sounds pretty ridiculous when you think about it, to change all the rules and even exams in the school just to get rid of one person. You really start to question how powerful Ayanokoji sensei really is. Mashima asked what Chabashiro thinks of Kiyotaka after teaching him for a year. She said it's a difficult question, but went on to say at first glance he seems like a normal high school boy, but there are two sides to him, and those eyes which see through everything. Those aren't eyes of a child. Mashima was in disbelief. Talk about a few students who had reached that kind of level, that being Horikita Manabu and Nagamo Miyabi. But even then, we still haven't seen Kiyotaka's real power, him going all out. So I'll ask a question to you watching. How far do you think Kiyotaka can really go? What is the limit of the boy named Kiyotaka Ayanokoji? Mashima asks more, questioning Chabashiro on what type of student Ayanokoji is. Chabashiro hesitant asks if this will have an impact on what he will do, but Mashima says it won't, and no matter what type of student Kiyotaka is, he will not allow Sakishiro to do what he wants. They want to get rid of Sakishiro as soon as possible. Mashima is sinking deeper and deeper into this. It's almost like quicksand. There's no telling if we get rid of Sakishiro what will happen. There could be someone else sent after Kiyotaka. Someone else in the school. All the two teachers could do is hypothesize what will happen in the future, and prayed all of their thoughts were just groundless fears. After a while, Kiyotaka and Sakanagi went to the gymnasium. Some of the third year students would leave directly after the ceremony, but some would stay and leave a little while after. From what Kiyotaka could see, there were about 100 of them. There was actually a person he could recognize standing a small distance away. Who actually came. Kiyotaka went to greet Horikita standing in the middle of a crowd, but only got a stare in. What's wrong with that? Horikita replied. Nothing, I'm just impressed. Impressed? I don't know what you mean by that. Kiyotaka goes on to say if this was the old her, she wouldn't have came, trying to compliment her growth. But she wasn't having it, and saying she's still the same old her. Just denying her growth in the process, or well you could say she didn't want to admit it in front of others. The ceremony was now over, and the doors opened. This was the final chance for the graduates to formally communicate with the remaining third years. No one had gathered around Manabu yet. He was still there. If a number of people would approach him increased, then Horikita would find it difficult to approach him. Deep within her heart, the girl known as Horikita Suzune was looking forward to this, but still, she didn't take a step. You should go. I know. Kiyotaka knows he didn't need to say that, but Horikita was only here because she wanted to talk to her brother. Yet her body would not move. During this moment, more and more people surrounded Manabu. If Kiyotaka just watched and did nothing, there would be no progress. He took the forceful approach and pushed her from the back. Horikita asked him to wait, but was cut off by Kiyotaka telling her to use his privileges as his sister. She added it would be strange if she ran to his side now, but Kiyotaka said it wouldn't. Horikita wouldn't budge. It reminded Kiyotaka of the start of the year. You could see Horikita slowly changing, but her core was still the same. The root cause of Kiyotaka to think this was because of the timid expression on her face. Horikita said she wasn't scared and just wanted to see the culmination of the 3 years her brother has been here. Kiyotaka understood this and saw it as Horikita not being satisfied with just a small chat with her brother. More and more people surrounded Manabu, and all Kiyotaka could do was watch Horikita, who was almost engraving the sight into her eyes, staring at her brother without blinking. The truce has gone to the end, I must add. Then a boy appeared next to Manabu. Current student council president, to be exact, Nagamo Miyabi. Instead of the atmosphere turning into a negative one, it was more unique. Nagamo said his hellos and congratulated Manabu on his graduation. He then greeted Manabu without any hesitation. You really are worthy of being called my senpai. In the end, I still wasn't able to threaten you, Nagamo said. To where Manabu replied saying it wasn't like that. The only reason for his failure was that they weren't in the same year. Therefore, no matter how much Nagamo would interfere, he was always an outsider. What I gotta say was true. No matter what Nagamo really did, it wouldn't have an effect. He can't directly hinder Manabu in every single exam. Therefore, most of his actions were deemed null when it came to the end of the story. Why was I born a year later than you? Nagamo questioned. Just disappointed for not being in the same year as the elder Horikita. Can I still shake your hand like this? Of course, I have no reason to refuse. It's a beautiful image in my opinion, and it really shows the beauty of this series, with conflict coming to an end. Almost makes me sad and gets me thinking what it will be like when Kiyotaka graduates, or should I say, if he graduates. We still have Sakishiro to deal with after all. After a while of chatting, Nagamo gives his thanks and leaves, and instead walks towards Horikita, who was observing from a distance. Did you hear what I just said? Please enjoy what I'll do next year. I remember your name was Horikita Suzune. She was nervous. If you were the usual Horikita, then she wouldn't have been shaken up. But due to the conversation with Nagamo and her brother just now, she couldn't help it. Now for what Manabu said. He basically went on to mention Suzune to Manabu. He said as long as she's here, she can help spread the message of you. It was causing Horikita to get nervous. If someone who opposed her brother came after her, there's no telling what would happen. Nagamo seemed to enjoy Suzune's reaction just now, and told her Manabu is an amazing person, and she should be proud of being his sister. They went on and Horikita asked him a question. Do you regret it? Regret? Because I don't see any hints of regret in your eyes. Kiyotaka thought this would be referring to the handshake and conversation between the two just now. You see, Nagamo seemed genuinely happy for Manabu to graduate in Class A, but the relationship between them couldn't really be described as one between two student council presidents. Of course, Sarikta has a hostility towards Nagamo, as she did things to her brother. Nagamo replied saying he can't be Manabu so easily, as he's like an invincible opponent. So you admit you lost to Horikita-senpai? Nagamo then turned to the interjecting Asahina, who I must add is hot as hell. Sorry, I'm not gonna lie, I'm down bad for her. And when you see future panels of her, like, y'all gonna understand me too, and ascend to heaven, boys, I'm telling you. Nagamo questioned this, to where she replied with another question saying, Horikita-senpai graduated from Class A, so doesn't that mean you lost? Where he replied saying that's only if you look at the outcome, but what does that have to do with losing? Asahina carried on saying that's considered losing and asked if she was wrong. Just carried on answering question to more questions. She'd be playing games with Manabu, I gotta say. They carried on and Asahina again did too, but Nagamo seemed to crack a little. He said he just wanted his approval, his recognition, and that's the reason for his attacks. It suddenly became a little bit creepy, as Nagamo sounded like a yandere seeking his crush's love, and like, goddamn, to top it off, his obsession of losing is even more wild right now. Before Nagamo replied to Asahina, he said he's still a student of Class A, and he's still the student council president, so how does that make him a failure? Well, at least shows to me, he cracks a little bit, and he hides behind his big ego, and when Asahina kept pushing, he snapped a little bit and let this out. But hey, that's just my assessment, let me know yours down below. I felt like a young girl proclaiming her love, added Asahina, to where Nagamo said maybe, and he has already inquired what Manabu is doing in the future, therefore he will chase after him, even after graduation. Nagamo mentioned he has no rivals in the second year, and come next year he will change the whole structure of the school and make this boring one more interesting. What I find insane, I see people always talking about, how much power does the student council president have? If you go back to the anime, if there's any anime onlys watching, when you had the meeting where Suda was sort of, going to that situation, you had the teachers, you had the students, and you had the student council president overseeing all of this. It's almost like the amount of power the student council president has is too much, and to be able to change the whole landscape of the school is unheard of normally. I guess becoming student council president in this school comes with a high reward. Speaking of which, this year, I still haven't been able to evaluate you, Ayanokoji. Finally turning his attention to our boy. Kiyotaka made the evaluation, but the look in his eyes made it seem like he was boring compared to the Horikita siblings. He also added that there's nothing worth investigating, but because of the fact he had Manabu's attention, Nagamo felt there was a connection there. Nagamo mentions this coming April, even if he doesn't want to fight, he will have to. The school is about to change forever, and I hope you are all ready for year 2, because oh boy, it's spicy. Horikita then asked a question that being of competition isn't just limited to class warfare. She also added that the school wouldn't allow it, but Nagamo shrugged and sighed. Said he could change the school system, what could allow him to gain more power, so he can easily change the school itself. He's already proposed to the school to allow them to mix up all the years in certain exams, and if they allow that, fighting Nagamo isn't out the question. Soon after, Nagamo and Asahina both left. It's a pain to talk with that person, Horikita added. Are you going back? I want to stay here for a while. Okay then, I'll see you later. Horikita then left, going back to the dorm. Kiyotaka then decided to look at Manabu and other third years. He wasn't particularly interested by this, but he really wanted to engrave this scene into his eyes, but at the same time he couldn't help but imagine what it would be like in 2 years. But it was impossible to visualize this now. The atmosphere was pleasant for a short while, but then they began to leave, one by one. Suddenly Manabu noticed Kiyotaka and came over. You still here? Were you waiting for me, he questioned? Yes, added Kiyotaka. He said that this may be the last time he gets to speak to him, and he asked when he's leaving. Kiyotaka asked this first, because if he was leaving today, he would immediately go to Horikita. But Manabu said he's leaving on the 31st at noon, 12:30 to be exact, a whole week later from today. Still not a whole lot of time left. Manabu had noticed Suzune left and asked Kiyotaka to pass on a message to her, being that he'll wait for her at noon on the 31st near the main entrance. Kiyotaka asked if it would be better if he said it himself. Manabu said she wouldn't be very open to that, so it's best that he does it. He warns Manabu that this may be very counterproductive, and if he tells her she may not come. If that's the case, then that's Suzune's own choice, Manabu adds. Kiyotaka asks if he could trust him with such a task, to where Manabu says he can. What can really show how much faith Manabu has in Kiyotaka. If you go back to my last video, I talked about how he wants to sort of entrust Horikita to Kiyotaka, and the growth of her at least to Kiyotaka. Something you just love to see. He added that he wanted to talk to Kiyotaka more, but he has an appointment. But wants him to come see him off on the 31st too. The only ones Manabu would be inviting are Kiyotaka and Suzune. Kiyotaka had no fear as he wouldn't have to speak in front of others. Once Manabu left, Kiyotaka had nothing to do and he decided to head back, but was stopped by Hirata, who asked if they could walk back together, but decided to walk and some time passed. And suddenly Hirata said he wanted to talk to him. Kiyotaka asked what he wanted to discuss. Hirata was hesitant. He said he really wanted to talk about this with him. Kiyotaka thought this was about the end of the year exam, but that was not it. You might find this unexpected of me. Starting with the sentence, he continued. I just feel like I can't be bothered with relationships and love anymore. I'm not sure about myself. You're not sure? Kiyotaka added. He continued and said, I think I may have never liked a girl in my life. He went on to say, other than Kei, he has never dated a girl before. So you're saying you never liked a girl before even now? Asked Kiyotaka. Yeah, replied Hirata. He asked about Michan, to where Hirata says he can't see a relationship with her, but he can't tell her that. Poor Michan, bro. Like, she was taking L's last. Well, even she's gonna take L's this well. God damn, poor Michan. They talked about this subject more, and Kiyotaka said it would be better to tell her. What sort of reminds me of Volume 1. Well, I think it's Volume 1. I'm not really too sure what it was. I remember it from the anime mainly. What is a shock? Like, come on, like me thinking about the anime, God damn, that's a big shock. But it's where Kiyotaka is with Ichinose, and that girl sort of wants to confess to Ichinose. And she's just like, no, Kiyotaka's my boyfriend. But he's just like, nah, don't do that, Ichinose. And tells her to tell the truth. So Ichinose tells the truth to the girl, and in the process she is hurt, but it's better that she knew. It's almost like that, if you guys remember it. He said all these things while looking into Hirata's eyes. He continued, saying choosing to delay this would only cause her more damage. Once again looked into Hirata's eyes. After their eyes met, he quickly diverted his gaze, but soon after he came to the conclusion, and he thanked Kiyotaka. But Hirata seemed to have one more thing to say. What is it, he asked. Oh, from now on, can I call you Kiyotaka-kun? Questioned Kiyotaka, who was curious what Hirata had to say, but didn't expect it to be this. Well, if it's okay with you, you can call me by my first name as well. Is that fine? Is this a step forward for our friendship? No, Kiyotaka, this is a step forward for Hirata to be in your pants, G. Okay, so I actually forgot about the scene, and like seeing it now, I'm just like, the only thing you can really assume is like Hirata is attracted to the opposite sex, meaning obviously he's gay, right? Which is okay, whatever. And that could be a stretch, but my man is blushing in this panel, so like, I don't know what it is. Like, someone could explain to me here, but from the looks of it, it seems like he likes he wants Kiyotaka's dick. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, yeah, that's about it. All I can really assume is that this feeling is formed after the bench scene, and I find it so funny that Kyo thinks this is a step forward in their friendship. But Hinata wants the date. Everyone is after Kiyotaka, now some in another way than others. This carried on for a while, but by the end of it, Hirata just thanked Kiyotaka. And with that, we end chapter 1, and I gotta say, that is probably one of the longest chapter 1s I've covered. Well, at least the words was the one I covered. It was around 120 pages. Like, 1/3 of the volume is pretty much this. We got to focus on graduation. And really mainly the Horikita siblings, with Manabu's story coming to a close. We thankfully get to see him graduate in Class A, which I was worried about, but thankfully he is. As for Horikita, we get to see her grow as a character, slowly but surely, and with her brother now leaving, this will only continue. And not just that, we got some spicy Sekishiro content as well, with Kiyotaka telling the teachers that being Mashima and Chabashira what's up. Everything is leading into year 2, and oh boy, I really can't wait. So let's carry on with chapter 2. In the beginning, Kiyotaka explains that come April, no one will have to worry about points, and even their class will be rewarded with tens of thousands of points. But for him, it was different, as he has a contract with Kushida, what makes him hand over half his private points every month. He said the contract had a purpose at first, but now that was changing. Kiyotaka thought there would be no need to worry, and it's only the start of spring break. The person he contacted was very important. He then contacted a certain person, but that person won't serve their purpose until the end of spring break. In late March, Kiyotaka meets up with Hiyori on late notice. Since they both had nothing to do, this was pretty fine. Hiyori added that they finally added new books to the library yesterday, and she gave a big smile to Kiyotaka. Hiyori's too adorable, bro. Like, I love her with her books, and goddamn, I'm not gonna lie, in this panel she'd be thick as hell. I swear, all the girls in the series, like, I could say they're hot. Like, I know I sound really down bad right now, but like, there isn't a bad looking one. I'm not gonna lie, I'm down bad. I don't know. Please help me. After a while, Hiyori asked something of Kiyotaka, that being if he was the one who changed the UN, looking at him with cute innocent eyes. Why do you think that? He asked, wanting a clear answer for why she believed that was the case. She replied saying she put all the pieces together, and she mentioned that UN always used to attack their class, but suddenly he stopped, and he stepped down one day. She heard it was due to the fact that Ishisaki took him down, but after she tried to contact UN, it seemed like a cover-up. She became sure of this fact. She apologized if this upset Kiyotaka and was afraid that it would anger him. She said if they can't be friends after this, she would regret what she did. Kiyotaka thought if this was the case, she should have kept it to herself. He then added if she doesn't dig any deeper, there won't be any more developments. What kind of development, she asked, to where Kiyotaka questioned what he was saying himself. He then asked about Hiyori's class battle, to where Hiyori explained to an outsider the way that one might have seemed problematic. What Kiyotaka agreed with, as Ryuan's fighting style raises many questions but at the same time was necessary for their victory. What I personally agree with, as the only way Class D could have won was Ryuan's dirty fighting style. Besides from that, they pretty much had no chance of winning. The way he formed this strategy was pretty much perfect. They talk about the 5 wins and how it was the perfect strategy, but he already thought it was greedy because Ryuan adopted a very dangerous strategy. She mentioned that it was fine to put the pressure on Class B, but targeting their bodies was a clear violation, and they would not tolerate this. Even Kiyotaka felt the same way, but he understood the girl he already lived a complete different life from him. They should have nothing in common, but somehow there were similarities in their thoughts and ideas. Kiyotaka asked if she knew Ryoan's strategy or why she didn't stop him. Hiyori said he wouldn't listen. He agreed but asked how he can be stopped. Kiyotaka wanted to know Hiyori's thought process and how she would act. By someone similar in power to him? No, someone even more powerful than him, she said. Suddenly Kiyotaka asked if she can pass on a message to him. What is it? She asked. If it were me, I would have been able to secure more than 5 wins using a better method. Please pass that on to him. God damn, like I love how this feud isn't over. Like you're still going out for the smoke. Hiyori says she understands and will pass it on to him. After a while, they say their goodbyes. Kiyotaka was starting to see Hiyori as a friend with mutual interests rather than just a girl in the same year as him. Soon after she left, he saw Kei at the mall, who seemed unhappy and asked what he wanted. He urged her to sit down on the seat Hiyori was just sitting in, but she refused and glanced at it like it was just trash. Kei added rumors would start if they sat together and looked in the distance. Kiyotaka asked if there was a problem with those rumors. Kei yelled, yes, there was, and if you interact casually with the opposite sex, rumors will start. But that's what they're doing now, Kiyotaka thought. So what do you want? She asked again. Kiyotaka said he forgot and would contact her when he remembers. He had already done what he needed to do with Kei. What the hell? This is such a mess, I'm going back. After sighing in disbelief, she turned back. Kiyotaka just watched and thought it wasn't so hard to see why she was in such a bad mood. After all, he deliberately upset her. And that ends the short chapter 2. Pretty fun chapter and an interesting one, I gotta say the least. And Kiyotaka upset Kei on purpose. I wonder where that's gonna go. Well, keep on watching and you're gonna find out. Along with that, we had the Ryoan stuff, what was pretty cool, and the way Kiyotaka taunted him would be fun to see Ryoan's reaction. Now on to the next. Kiyotaka had woken up and had an invitation to meet, none other than Ichinose Honami from Class B, with Horikita to come too. Kiyotaka had an idea of the conversation, what would come from it, that being about the final examination, along with the topic of becoming second years. He also wondered if Ichinose had recovered. After all, losing 2-5 would destroy her heart, especially in the dominating way it happened. After a while, he went to go meet Ichinose. It was 9:30 in the morning, and although it was sunny, it was expected to rain at noon. Since it was the holidays, Kiyotaka expected to see many students at the mall. He got in the elevator, and to his surprise, you again? It was Ibuki, both in the same elevator. What a flashback Easter egg we got here. In the first 0.5 volume, 4.5, we had him and Ibuki in the elevator, and in the last 0.5 volume of year 1, here they are again in the elevator. Fucking beautiful Easter egg. Nice little hint. If you guys know, you know. Funny thing is, they were both on high alert, so the same thing doesn't happen again. After arriving on the first floor, Ibuki stepped out of the elevator. It seems like they were both heading in the direction of the mall. Are you fine with this? You're walking the same pace as me, Kiyotaka added. Why does it have to be me? Why don't you walk faster? Ibuki replied. I actually really like Ibuki. Like, she's like one of my faves. Like, I have like a really weird fluctuating top 6. If we're not counting the year 2 girls, then my top 5, top 6 is really fluctuating. And I don't know if you know this, but I'm a mini Ibuki simp. I can't lie. It's almost like she turns everything into a competition and doesn't want to lose. As a result, the two just walk side by side. Kiyotaka said it was great that Ryoan was able to come back, but was cut off by Ibuki, who called him annoying and to shut up. This man Kiyotaka couldn't get a single sentence in, bro. All of a sudden, Ishizaki appeared. He said hello, but Ibuki told him to shut up too. Ibuki is on smoke today, like Jesus. Ishizaki said, did you not respond because you're on a date with Kiyotaka? And was kicked in the knee immediately by Ibuki. This man Kiyotaka really got the whole harem, huh? Is Ryoan really coming back? Kiyotaka asked. Yeah, no. Ishizaki accidentally answered. Stupid idiot, Ibuki replied. It seems Ishizaki slipped up and a return about Ryoan is meant to be a secret. Ishizaki said it doesn't matter and it'd be useless to hide it from Kiyotaka anyways. But Ibuki was still serious. Ishizaki stated that they're still gonna have to take out Kiyotaka to rise in the ranks. Ibuki seemed to agree. But all Kiyotaka to think is like, why are they talking about this right next to me? All of a sudden, Ishizaki said that he has the ultimate strategy to reach Class A and asked if Kiyotaka wanted to hear. He was all ears. He then said the strategy involved Kiyotaka coming to their class, and that way they could reach Class A. He felt if Ryoan and Kiyotaka worked together, then no one could stop them, not even Ichinose and Sakinagi. Kiyotaka thought about it, and said it's not a bad strategy, but asked how they're gonna get 20 million points. Ishizaki said Ryoan would sort that out, but Kiyotaka thought he wouldn't just rely on him to reach Class A. Ryoan's ego, no, his pride as a man was too strong to allow this. Kiyotaka said he was happy for the invite but refuses it, saying it's more fun being opponents than allies. You're weird. Why are you happy about going up against him again? Ibuki said as she laughed grimly at Kiyotaka. He answered saying he's looking forward to how Ryoan will attack him. Kiyotaka was interested how Ryoan would develop, but he wanted to see how he would win a match against Horikita, Ichinose, and Sakinagi first. By doing this, he thought he could challenge him again. Not after long they reached the mall, and they gave their goodbyes. Kiyotaka thought how their relationships have grown this past year, and how he is able to hold conversations with almost anyone now. It's been a year already, he said out loud. He didn't really get it before, but he seemed to gain an understanding of the concept of time passing. He had experienced smell, taste, feelings he had never experienced before. Life was changing. The White Room, huh? Kiyotaka knew that man had not given up yet. He felt this intense desire to get him out to school. But that was in 2 years. He still had 2 years of school life left. There's no need to think about this now. He was in a situation he couldn't imagine before. The memories of this year had been engraved into the boy's heart. This whole monologue, I guess you could say, is really important as it shows the growth of Kiyotaka himself. The growth he's had within this whole year. From being rarely able to hold a conversation with anyone, to being able to hold it with the likes of Ryuen and Sakinagi. And while still not there, he seems to have feelings about this school. You can clearly see these years are important to him and he will do anything to protect them. That's just great. And one of the reasons why Kiyotaka is one of my favorite characters. Soon after Kiyotaka ran into Horikita, they were both early. He tried to test Horikita and see what Ichinose would talk about today. They went to the cafe and even Ichinose was 10 minutes early. They wondered how long she'd been waiting for. Horikita gave her thoughts on Ichinose, saying she probably hates to make people wait, so arrived before the allocated time. What kind of life did she live for being such a kind-hearted person? Was all Kiyotaka could think about. He couldn't understand. After a while they approached Ichinose. She said good morning to the two, and that she just arrived. But did she just really arrive, I wonder? Kiyotaka thought this was cliche and wondered what time she really did arrive. But Kiyotaka asked if there'd be any problems with her points, because they should be 0 if they prevented someone being expelled. She said after paying here she would have around 3,000 class points left. They got to the point and Horikita asked if they would talk about the end of the exam, or the agreement between their classes. Horikita saw through it all. They mentioned that the end of the exam would have taken a big toll on Ichinose. She said she was completely defeated by Ryuen's strategy, and they failed because she lacked the ability. Ichinose wasn't able to fix her frame of mind before the end of the exam. I would go as far to say as the moment Ryuen arrived, Ichinose's defeat was inevitable. Ichinose mentioned that they had a great showing against Class A. Kiyotaka decided to expose himself a little to test Horikita's growth. He said to Ichinose if they didn't make the deal that they could fight Class A, then it might have been different. What do you mean asked to fight Class A was what the gaze Horikita gave just meant. But in the end, Kaneda won the lottery and picked Class B, so none of this mattered. They then talked about Ryuen's strategy, and how many of Ichinose's classmates showed abdominal pain, and how it may have been a part of Ryuen's plan. Horikita mentioned that they should report this to the school, but Ichinose saw no point. Horikita said she would assist her if needed, but Ichinose said she doesn't want to complain, and will use this incident as a lesson to grow. Really showing Ichinose's growth, I felt. She said she was lucky, and the whole of Class B is taking this seriously, using this defeat to grow and not make the same mistakes in the future. She mentioned Kiyotaka's class is getting stronger and they can't take them lightly anymore. Horikita said she wants to say something that relates to this. Bluntly speaking, I want to cancel our partnership next year. Ichinose knew this was coming. She asked if they can maintain a cooperative relationship, where Horikita said they can discuss when the point difference was shortened. You see, the gap in points between the two classes in the moment was so large that having an agreement didn't really favor Class C at all. Kiyotaka agreed and that was that. Ichinose held no bad feelings and said they were enemies from the start. This was just a temporary truce. She thanked them. From the start of the second year, we'll be enemies. Horikita and Ichinose firmly shook hands. After the meeting was over, Ichinose said she wanted to stay here for a while. And Horikita stopped Kiyotaka, saying she had something to say. She was serious. So everything is suddenly fine again? Don't you have something to say to me? She questioned. An angry voice came from behind. Kiyotaka tried to play this off, but Horikita got straight to the point, saying he negotiated to face Class A in the exam. Kiyotaka agreed, saying that was the case. She wanted to know why Kiyotaka would do this. He thought this is where the best chances of winning came from, but Horikita tried to argue, saying facing Ryuen would have been better. Kiyotaka said if they used the same strategy, only Suda would have had the means to fight back. Mentioned this to Horikita, but she wasn't having it. She asked Kiyotaka if he's serious about reaching Class A. He said he was, and people change, meaning she's changed too. Although Horikita actually had an issue with Kiyotaka, mainly half-assing his participation both in athletics and academics in the class. Those words even hurt Kiyotaka to hear. She asked if he would free himself from these restrictions from today onward, and prove to her that he wants to reach Class A. I refuse, said Kiyotaka. As expected, instead of being surprised, Horikita just laughed bitterly. She said he was all talk about wanting to help her reach Class A. At least that's the case for now, he replied. What? For now? Questioned Horikita. Kiyotaka then had a thought. That in the past, Horikita would have never thought he would have cooperated with her. But right now, he was able to. At least to a certain extent. Horikita evaluated Kiyotaka, questioning if he's on the same level as Ichinose and Sakinagi. She really thinks like my boy under them? Like, that's kind of wild she's trying to downplay my man. But Kiyotaka fired back saying sorry. But no one in this year is on his level. She didn't agree and found it unbelievable he said this. And that although Manabu acknowledges him, it doesn't prove anything. She said he's nothing but a swindler, and he's running away from all of this still. Feel free to call me that if it makes you happy, said Kiyotaka. With that response, Horikita remained silent. As he was about to take a step down the staircase, he was called out by Horikita again. Let me test you, she said. Test what? Your true strength. She wanted to test Kiyotaka's true strength, his true abilities, as she did not know them. They made an agreement on the next written exam after April. Whoever gets the highest score wins. Kiyotaka made the deal to get 100 points on any subject of the exam. As for the subject, he would let Horikita decide at any time, even on the day of the exam. This was to stop Kiyotaka from supposedly cramming in one subject of studying a little day on the same day at the toilet of the mall. Two men stood there, one being the man Yuen Kakeru, the other one was Hashimoto of Class A. This meeting was not an accident though, as Hashimoto contacted Yuen to meet. Yuen asked Hashimoto what kind of prank he was pulling, but he just wanted to summarize what happened this year. The two didn't trust each other, but this was a relationship based on mutual interests. He questioned Yuen, asking if he was returning after beating Class B. Who knows? Maybe it's just a whim, replied Yuen. Hashimoto raised his hands, almost signaling he did not want to fight. Are you that cautious of me? Questioned Yuen. This was expected, as the man named Yuen who had once retreated into the shadows is suddenly back. Being cautious would be normal here. Are you on Sakinagi's orders? He asked. Well, Hashimoto said this was a hard question to answer. Yuen knew he wasn't doing this on Sakinagi's orders. But to understand the situation, he threw a name out there to gauge out Hashimoto's reaction. He then asked his future plans. As Yuen walked up to him, they were the only ones in the toilet. There were no cameras. If Yuen wanted to do anything to him, no one would see. There was no evidence. Don't think you could just win by wandering in the middle of two classes as a double spy, said Yuen. Even after getting defeated and coming back, you're still acting superior. How bold. Although Hashimoto felt anxious, he still felt a bit happy at the same time. Hashimoto said he doesn't plan on saving himself by relying on two classes. Yuen took out his phone and called someone here. Who do you think it was, Yuen? He questioned. Who knows? It's Ayanokoji. Ayanokoji? Yuen questioned. Then he added that he thought it would be him. Yuen didn't seem affected by Hashimoto saying that name. Hashimoto's plans had fallen through. Can you think of a reason I called Ayanokoji here? No. Yuen bluntly replied. Did you really call him over? I don't think you did, asked Yuen. Originally, this was meant for Hashimoto to feel out Yuen. But now the roles have been reversed. Yuen was now feeling him out. The one who was really coming was Class B's Kanzaki. He said he wanted to talk to Yuen, so Hashimoto acted as the middleman, and in return, he gets a cooperative relationship with Class B. Kanzaki got to it and said he wanted to talk about the end of the exam. He says he doesn't think he lost Yuen and he played dirty to win. Yuen questioned what was dirty and asked if it was about him being commander last minute. Don't act stupid, replied Kanzaki, and he referred to the stomach aches. No wonder he's that angry. What a beautiful act, Yuen, said Hashimoto as he observed. Kanzaki gave a warning, saying this won't work again. Yuen just laughed and questioned if Ichinose can really defend against his attacks. Kanzaki said she couldn't, and the one who could was him. To where Kanzaki suddenly replied Ichinose lacks the ability to deal with emergency situations, and has a big weakness to being unable to abandon the weak. Yuen was surprised and thought this was going to be a bore. He was not worried in the slightest and said even a dog can bark at empty threats. Watch me, I'll prove it, said Kanzaki. Sure, if you wish, I'll beat you down even harder the next time, said Yuen. Kanzaki said he wasn't the same as Ichinose and he won't show mercy. He will fight with everything he's got. Then let me look forward to when your class isn't so shit, said Yuen, and he laughed half-heartedly. I swear no one can beat Yuen when it comes to trash talk. He is the GOAT. Whenever someone tries to beat this man or even like step up to my boy, the only one who sort of comes close is Konji, because Konji's so different. That's all I can really say, but Yuen, the GOAT. Kanzaki then left. Hashimoto asked Yuen if he would completely destroy Class B now. Who knows? He replied, laughing, avoiding the question. He suddenly remembered something completely unrelated, that being the conversation between Ishizaki and Ibuki. Now back to Kiyotaka. It was after the meeting between Ichinose and Harita. He actually bumped into Yuen, who led him into a deserted corner in the mall. They kept a distance, so if someone saw them, they could just pretend to pass by each other. Kiyotaka asked if he heard from Ishizaki that he was at the mall. That was indeed the case, and Yuen was looking for him. Kiyotaka had taken notice of Yuen's eyes, who had even more spirit in them as before. You know my contact details. Won't talking on the phone be easy? Asked Kiyotaka. Yuen said he wanted to talk and take a look at his senseless, severe face at the same time. What's that supposed to mean? Asked Kiyotaka. That. Referring to the message he already passed on to Yuen by Kiyotaka. Kiyotaka said he meant what he meant, and he would have done a better job. I'm free to use whatever means necessary, replied Yuen. But Kiyotaka said if Yuen carries on being reckless, he may get expelled, and as a result, he may feel a bit lonely. Yuen laughed and mentioned he lost to Sakinagi, but he is still so calm. Kiyotaka said that is true, but then told Yuen to fight Sakinagi and find out if she's stronger than him. Huh. Are you underestimating me? He questioned. As he approached Kiyotaka, you, who have defeated me, cannot be weaker than Sakinagi, trying to provoke Kiyotaka. Yuen did not believe that Kiyotaka went all out during the exam, and that he probably didn't care about winning or losing from the start. Kiyotaka had asked Yuen what he plans to do after his return. Yuen said not to say he's returned without his permission, and he intends to enjoy the holidays for a little longer, meaning he won't officially participate in the battle of classes for a while longer. But if I get tired of it all, I'll destroy Ichinose or Sakinagi as a warm-up. What an extreme change of heart, replied Kiyotaka. Kukuku. Indeed, I'm shocked myself, said Yuen, and added he didn't expect to get revenge on Kiyotaka so soon. The dragon was about to rise again. If that were to happen, neither Class B or A could ignore him. Kiyotaka added if he were to destroy Ichinose and Sakinagi, it would be a big help, and he would be very grateful. I thought you weren't interested in Battle of Classes, he questioned Kiyotaka. He replied saying he's a little different now. By next year's class will be near the top, even if he's not here. The end of that sentence is surprising to Yuen. Kiyotaka added that he could be targeted from a distance, and it wouldn't be strange if he suddenly dropped out. Referring to Sakishiro, but of course the Yuen didn't know this. Yuen told him to relax, and the only person who can expel Kiyotaka is him. But as Kiyotaka started his sentence, Yuen suddenly disappeared from his field of vision. He attacked suddenly, going for his face, not hesitating one bit, his sharp nails poised to get to Kiyotaka's eyeballs. He had no choice but to dodge. Yuen then used the momentum to spin around and attempt to kick him with his right foot, but that was just a feint as he passed down over him. The raw attack was his left leg, using the force of the spin to make it even more powerful. Kiyotaka dodged once again. Huh, you can dodge even like that after a surprise attack. How much of a monster are you? Said Yuen. Although it was just the two, there were plenty of surveillance cameras around. My instincts are telling me I should eat you alive right now, said Yuen. Why aren't you attacking? He asked, to where Kiyotaka said he wants to avoid the risk of fighting him, as it's not the right time. Yuen laughed and mentioned this must be the calmness of the strong, and it's making his skin crawl. Yuen's eyes are shining like they were before. No, this was even brighter. Kiyotaka added that he better grow even stronger. Grow even stronger? Who are you, my teacher? Yuen questioned, to where Kiyotaka replied saying he's telling the truth and he doesn't have any problems with him using dirty tactics to win, but not to be so obvious about it. Mentioning his only salvation was Ichinose not wanting to complain. If that's the way he does things, he will never surpass him. You really said it now, replied Yuen. He once again approached Kiyotaka, but not like before. He didn't want to seem to attack. Kiyotaka said he doesn't have to listen to his advice, but fighting him now is impossible. Yuen said he would accept his garbage advice, but one day he will beat him. Kiyotaka added if he was to be expelled by Yuen, it wouldn't be too bad. He questioned how the battlefield would be next year, and it would be a lot different to the first. Times were changing, and we'll find out soon. It was now noon, and it started to rain heavily. After listening to the rain for 20 to 30 minutes, Kiyotaka decided to head back. Picked up his student ID and rented an umbrella from the front machine. He took one step and spotted Ichinose amongst the rain. She was not holding an umbrella. There was no sign of anyone else near her. She was alone. She had been sorting out her thoughts ever since, huh? Kiyotaka hurried to borrow another umbrella. He felt it was an act of kindness to leave her alone, but worried concerning what just happened in her exam. Ichinose wasn't walking towards the dorms, but instead for school. She continued to get bombarded with the rain. Before Kiyotaka could watch her walk away, he chased after her. He then caught up to her and told her she would get a cold if she stays like this. You should go back first. I would like to be soaked by the rain a little. I see. Kiyotaka thought it wouldn't be best to use the words little bit, and I agree, goddamn, like she's been out here for ages. This girl was wet. If Kiyotaka left her alone, there's no telling how long she would stay out here for. Kiyotaka lowered his umbrella, closing it. He said he would join her. Won't you catch a cold? She questioned. I could say the same to you, he replied. Ichinose said she doesn't mind, and it would be good if she caught a small one. Kiyotaka replied saying he'll do the same. After a while, she seemed to get it and agreed to go back. She mentioned to Kiyotaka that she's always showing her weak sides to him, and questioned why he's always by her side when she's depressed. Kiyotaka replied saying these are all coincidences. If normal guys were to hear this, then they would get angry. After all, Ichinose is quite popular. It's okay, you can complain to me all you want, said Kiyotaka. But with a look of anxiety, Ichinose shook her head from left to right. She mentioned she's not okay showing her weakness like this, and it's way too lame. And added that Kiyotaka should go back first, as she wants to stay here a while, not go back to her room yet. Kiyotaka said he'll stay here too. She replied saying if she's all alone in her room thinking, she'll just get depressed, so she doesn't want to go back yet. Kiyotaka thought he had to do something else to get her to move. You want to come to my room then? If you had someone to talk to, you won't be depressed, added Kiyotaka. But I'm all wet. Soon after she agreed, and they went to Kiyotaka's room. Bro, if Kay found out about this, I wouldn't be surprised if Ichinose went missing the next day. Tried to get her to talk about what was upsetting her, but she wouldn't budge. After a while, she started to open up. Kiyotaka got her a drink of hot cocoa. She started to talk about Class B, and her only miscalculation was her as the leader. Kiyotaka said he's always considered her an extraordinary person, but Ichinose refused this praise, and mentioned that after speaking to Horikita, she's really seen how much she's grown this year, and the same with every leader of other classes. Because of that, she was losing confidence in herself. I'd be able to win in the future, she questioned. She asked Kiyotaka if she was to ask that, would he answer honestly? He said if that's what he wants her to do, then he could. She wanted to answer right now, something that cannot be clearly answered. Kiyotaka said they were about to come second years soon, and that the new year was coming. He continued, throughout the year, no matter what, you have to fight with your classmates. You may experience happiness, sadness, and even sometimes hardships. But even so, you must never stop advancing. This was the only thing the leader of Class B Ichinose Hanami could do right now. To continue and fight, and put her faith in her comrades to the very end. And then, will this be my answer after a year? Questioning herself 1 year later. She then says she's afraid. She began to tremble and asked what should she do? What can she do? It wasn't the cold, but instead her fear what started this trembling. She looked weak. Ichinose wouldn't allow anyone else to see her like this, not even her classmates. Kiyotaka thought it was a simple task to say such tender words to her or just open up her heart to him. It wouldn't be much harder for Kiyotaka to whisper sweet, gentle words, delivering them right through the gap in her heart. He thought it might even be possible to touch her skin beneath her wet clothes. Kiyotaka began to move little by little and lifted her head to look at him. He stretched out his right hand, then touched her wet hair, then lightly stroked her cheek. It was a cold, soft sensation. He then moved his thumb and gently caressed her lips. Doing that, her trembling body began to stop, and soon after, her lips too. She said Kiyotaka was such a mysterious person. He then asked a question, that being if she would meet up with him on the same day next year. She hesitated for a moment, but Kiyotaka said he wanted to see the Ichinose a year later. She closed her eyes and nodded slightly. Ichinose gave her thanks to him and gave the brightest smile she had all this time. Kiyotaka asked a question to himself. What would happen in the future? And said to himself, If the girl known as Ichinos economy is to fall during the second year, then he will be the one to finish her off. The day March 31st had now arrived. It was a special day, as today would be the day Horikita Manabu would embark on his next journey, leaving the school. They agreed to meet at noon, but as usual, Kiyotaka was early. While at the front of the school, Kiyotaka had begun to reflect on his own change. It felt like he was a complete different person. 20 minutes before the agreed time, Manabu arrived. It was now 11:40. Kiyotaka said he would call Horikita. Manabu said there was no need. He didn't expect Kiyotaka to come so early, but he thought the siblings would have a long talk. But what they both did not expect was the younger sister Suzune not arriving yet. So they began to talk about things relating to them both. Kiyotaka apologized, wishing that he could have done more while he was still on the student council. But Manabu said it was his responsibility and his fault to impose it on Kiyotaka. He opted to give Kiyotaka one last piece of advice. That being the lower ranked classes still have a chance of victory, and is no means an easy fight for any class. Kiyotaka said it's not very reasonable considering he's been in Class A for a whole 3 years. Manabu mentioned luck largely determines victory or defeat for the immature first years in the lower classes in order to beat the upper ones. Perhaps what Nagama wants to do isn't necessarily wrong, he said. But Kiyotaka asked if there's a big point difference in the second years, in terms of class points. Manabu said there was, and mentioned the standings for the second year. Nagamo's Class A, 1,491 points, Class B, 889 points, Class C, 280 points, and Class D, 76 points. God damn! That Class B is done. Like, I see literally no hope of them winning. They must be depressed out of their minds, but I guess they're just gonna try and enjoy school life and save up a bit of money at this point. With only 1 year left, Class A was already in a stable situation, but Nagamo was still bold enough with his proposal to help the lower classes. Even Kiyotaka knew Class D had no hope. At that point, Manabu said the classes would use private points of Class B and below to gamble on who gets the right to move up to Class A. If they were to pool up their points, they may even have 40, no, maybe 60 million private points. But not everybody would be able to participate in that gamble. Even if you were in Class D, you wouldn't care as long as you had some cash after graduating. Didn't that happen in your year? Asked Kiyotaka. Manabu said Class A and B were always fighting, whereas Class C and D did not gain enough points. And carried on saying the bastard is bored of what it takes to win, and joining the student council was all to kill time. Kiyotaka said he plans to observe what Nagamo wants to do, and if he really plans to change the entire grade, the entire school, he will have to witness it before making any judgments. Manabu said that Kiyotaka is advancing to a higher level than him. You flatter me, he replied. What Kiyotaka meant was that he had no intention to stop Nagamo, as well as no means to stop it. Therefore, it wouldn't be so bad if he observed. I'm not the person you think I am, he said. Manabu said he's sorry, and he doesn't think that, denying what Kiyotaka just said. He still hadn't changed his evaluation on Kiyotaka for the whole year. Kiyotaka said he couldn't fathom what part of his body, what essential factor allowed him to gain Manabu's approval. All he had was Kiyotaka's entrance exam scores, and an account of him saving Suzune. In addition to that, he had the relay race. But even that, he still didn't know the true extent to his academics and athletic ability. Manabu said using his own perception and intuition, he can figure out the skill of his opponent to some extent. Kiyotaka wanted to hear what he looked like for Manabu's perception as a parting gift. He knew Manabu would answer honestly. And soon after, he told him. Manabu said there are no flaws in his strategies, and he surpassed his prediction in life, and added that he is one person he can't beat in terms of physical strength, and all of the people he's faced, Kiyotaka is the one person he does not want to fight. So you're saying you concede defeat to me? Replied Kiyotaka, to where Manabu said even facing a perfect opponent, there are still some chances to win. He then asked what environment Kiyotaka grew up in, as his abilities are not inherently possessed. Even if he was educated by his family, it's not an easy task to reach that territory. Kiyotaka then asked if he grew up in an unordinary family environment too, to where he replied saying no matter what it was, it wouldn't have been anything given to you just like that. Manabu then took out his phone and showed a phone number on the screen. He said to remember these two numbers, one being his and the others being Tachibana's, and if he has any problems after he graduates, he can always talk to them. He said if he can't remember these numbers, he can save them now, but it has to be deleted later. Kiyotaka knew if he wrote down these numbers to the people on the outside, it would only hurt him. He then looked at the numbers and nodded, indicating he saved the 11 digits into his brain. Kiyotaka then asked what he plans to do afterwards, to where Manabu says he would tell him after he graduates, as it's almost time. It was almost noon. Kiyotaka said he would contact Suzune, but Manabu said again, it's not necessary. Kiyotaka said he shouldn't be so stubborn and there's no harm in initiating contact. But what Manabu was worried about is if he were to show emotion, it could hinder Suzune's growth. And if she decided to experience growth by not seeing him here today, that's even better. Kiyotaka couldn't accept this. Manabu looked at Kiyotaka and asked him to answer something as a parting gift. Why do you hide your abilities? He questioned. Kiyotaka says he just doesn't like bringing attention to himself. Manabu said even if he wants to conceal his true self, is this something he can stick by? Kiyotaka said it's not something he had thought of and decided to live a peaceful school life as a normal high school student you can find anywhere. He asked Kiyotaka if he had any plans to continue doing this in the future, to where he replied saying there's an increase in things that has attracted his attention, and he won't have to get serious for most of them, but it's still more than before. But to be honest, Kiyotaka wasn't so sure himself, so he bluntly told him what he was feeling as of this moment. Kiyotaka wondered what kind of answer Manabu had had from that. He then replied saying he had thoughts of what he accomplished at this school recently. Had he shown his strength? Did he have any more room to grow? Stuff like that. Almost the complete opposite to Kiyotaka. He then asked Kiyotaka a question, that being if he thought continuing like this will have any meaning in the future. Kiyotaka said from his perspective it does. So when Manabu said maybe, but asked if he wanted to leave something at this school. And if that's the case, to think what he just asked through carefully. Leave something behind. Leave something behind? That's only someone who stands out as much as you can do. Denying the possibility, Manabu did not agree with Kiyotaka's words just now. He went on to say if Kiyotaka can't imprint his legacy at the school itself, then he just needs to do it to the students. Let it be known, as the student known as Ayanokoji Kiyotaka be carved into the minds of his students. Doing that, they will not forget him. Kiyotaka never thought of such a thing. Manabu said he was grateful for Kiyotaka helping Suzune grow, and he was a hidden great power throughout the year. And as for Kiyotaka is a man who would just stop at this level, that's why he doesn't disappoint him. Kiyotaka started to understand and told Manabu he would think it through carefully. This is something Kiyotaka would have to figure out himself. No matter what it was about. Nagamo, Horikita, or the school itself. The boy wanted memories. Random memories would make him feel happy. In the beginning he was satisfied with what he was, but that might not be the correct answer now. There had to be meaning for him coming to this school. You leaving made me feel a bit lonely. Kiyotaka swallowed the sentence as soon as it reached his lips. They both showed the side to each other they hadn't before. It was almost time to go. The time is 12:10. Manabu was sure Suzune wouldn't show up. He looked towards the school, the sister who should have arrived. No one expected it to be like this. Kiyotaka wondered if this was Horikita's answer. He reached into his pocket and grabbed his phone. He would use forceful methods if he had to. I'm really sorry, my sister is causing you trouble to the very end, said Manabu. It was like he saw through Kiyotaka's feelings. As he turned around, the man known as Horikita Manabu was prepared to leave. I can say that these 3 years I have continuously walked at the forefront of the school itself. That was the man's conclusion. Halfway through, I've lost a lot of classmates. Other students in the other classes had the same experiences. He didn't show joy from graduating from Class A, but even so, he wasn't pessimistic. This is just a solemn reflection of his past events. There were 24 dropouts before our graduation. There were 13 in the 3rd year alone, something Kiyotaka did not know of. In Nagamo's there was 17 in the winter semester, and in Kiyotaka there was 3. It should be noted as the students' rise in years, it would become more and more serious. Manabu stated that he had come to understand this school, understand the concept of it, and could feel from his skin that after he leaves this place, he won't fail on any future selections. Let's call it a day here, he said. The main entrance was a few meters in front of him. He looked back at Kiyotaka one last time. Although this is a one-sided request, I'll leave Suzune in your care. With that, he reached his hand out to Kiyotaka and asked him to shake it. The two of them shook hands, and even Kiyotaka noticed the grip of Manabu contained incredible power. After that, they naturally let go. Until we meet again, Ayanokoji. Leaving that last message, he began his walk towards the main entrance. If he was to leave now, no one could do anything. The shortest time Kiyotaka could take to see him again was 2 years. But he would never see this man again. All of a sudden, a shout came from behind Kiyotaka. After hearing his voice, Manabu stopped. It seems at the very end the girl caught up. Noon had passed, and Manabu was a few steps from leaving. Even if she arrived a minute late, she wouldn't have been able to see his face. She apologized that she was late. But why was the question? Just one look at her and you could tell the reason for this. The Horikita yesterday compared to today was a different one. Even Manabu stared blankly at the condition of her. You've changed, he said to his sister, but corrected himself saying she's gone back to her old self. He then asked what she's thinking right now. The Horikita said her heart was all over the place. The only thing she could say for sure was the former her that followed his shadow was no longer here. She is no longer that person anymore. Manabu then asked a question. To you, who has finally stopped chasing after me, how will you live your future? Suzune replied, saying she would no longer chase the back of others and find her own path. But she wouldn't just stop there. She would walk ahead of her classmates. And in order to find her own way, she will learn together with her companions. That's it. You finally returned to the past, said Manabu. Past Suzune who only Manabu had seen. He asked her if she knew why he pushed her away. She did not. He replied saying he considered the affairs concerning her to be very important. And when she was just a child, he sensed great potential in her. He saw an unpolished diamond gaining power to surpass him. Manabu took the last step. However, you were trapped in an illusion. You decided you were inferior to me and gave up because you thought it was impossible to surpass me. You see, Suzune just wanted to pursue Manabu's shadow. It wasn't a bad thing. It caused a rift between the two. He must become even stronger and kinder than anyone else. He then hugged his sister gently. Horikita's short hair fluttered in the wind. She tried to speak, but Manabu cut her off. You're all good now. I'm sure of that now. Kiyotaka couldn't say anything. This area had become one where words were forbidden. Manabu then said he wanted to say sorry. It was about their relationship not being good, and one of the reasons was because of him. He said in the past he liked the long hair, but that was a lie he told on purpose. Horikita was surprised. Manabu said back then she liked keeping her hair short, but listened to his opinion and she lost her character, meaning Suzune only kept her hair short to please Manabu. So when he saw her at school again, he knew instantly that she hadn't changed at all. She said she'll forgive him for lying, but that lie made her what she is today. She suddenly realized this fact and laughed as she forgave him. After seeing that smiling face, Manabu too let loose of one. He wasn't a man who ever smiled. This was the first time Kiyotaka had ever seen it. One he would never see again. He'd wished he could spend one more year on campus with him. Then he would become even closer to the man named Horikita Manabu. Might have changed because of this. Something like this was a true pity. Manabu said 2 years later he would wait outside for her at the main entrance, and he would like to see her all grown up then. She said she would do her best to the very end. He then said to Kiyotaka he'd look forward to when they meet again. Likewise, replied Kiyotaka, despite knowing that will never happen. It was almost time. Exactly 12:30. He listened closely, he could hear the bus approaching. We'll meet again later, replied Manabu. With that, he crossed the main entrance, and those served as his last words. All Suzume could do was stare straight at his back, watching, and cherishing every last moment. Some time passed, and even though Manabu was gone, they stared in that direction for some time. Kiyotaka decided to speak. So you're all alone now? Yeah, she replied, as her face tightened. She then thanked Kiyotaka for him helping her a lot today, as if he didn't talk to Manabu, she would have never caught up. The two of them then walked back to the dorms. About your hair. You really decided to cut it, huh? This was the reason she was so late. She probably decided to cut her hair as a last-minute decision. She said later she had left her phone in the dorm, but before she realized her hair was already being cut, and blamed her thought process that she was being too slow. Way too stupid, she said, and laughed at herself. Kiyotaka asked how it feels to return to her old self after all these years. Not even Horikita had the words to express this. Her feelings were complex in this matter. She could barely face Kiyotaka while speaking. She told him that she wanted to walk around a bit before going back. Kiyotaka asked if she wanted him to come. There's no need, she replied. She's not going to the mall, nor the convenience store. She was trying to find a place she could be alone. If she went back to the dorm, it would already be too late. Kiyotaka chased after her. She told him not to follow, but he wasn't listening. He tried to speak to her, but she wouldn't face him. Kiyotaka asked her to face him if she was okay, but all she could do was shake her head from left to right. It doesn't matter if you want to cry, he said. After all these years, the girl had finally managed to reconcile with her brother, but only at the very end. The next time they would meet would be in 2 years. Horikita's voice trembled. I finally realized the errors of my ways. She collapsed and fell to her knees. Both hands covered her face, trying to hold back the tears that kept flowing out. She continued. Yeah, I've been separated from my brother again, she yelled. Alone. Alone, was all she could say. The loud weeping tears was that of a child. If it wasn't for the school, Horikita would have followed her brother to the very end of the earth. Kiyotaka said she could cry as much as she wanted now, but after that she needs to show her brother in the future how much he's grown, and there's nothing restricting our growth from now on. There was no need to worry, as they still had 2 years left, and she would grow tremendously. Manabu had to be looking forward to it. So that's it. Manabu. Kiyotaka's voice that could no longer reach him was sucked into the blue sky what ushered in the new spring. After a while, Horikita stopped crying, but was yet to recover her strength, so she was still sitting on the ground. She said Kiyotaka seeing her like this was a great thing. So I'm gonna share the scene with Keisei and the others then. Kiyotaka took out his phone and pointed the camera at her. Do you want me to kill you? She said. I'm just kidding, replied Kiyotaka. She wonders why she always makes blunders when she's with him, and asked if she could see his blunders, but Kiyotaka said she did when he lost the Sakinagi. She replied saying that wasn't a blunder but a simple defeat. Kiyotaka asked if she would accept his request of joining the student council if he wins the competition they have next year. She said fine, but asked her why he wants her to join. Kiyotaka said that was a secret and he would tell her after the loss. She pushed further and Kiyotaka admitted it was Manabu who was concerned about Nagumo. Kiyotaka added that their relationship at the time wasn't so good, so he requested it upon him. She told him not to act so modest, and Manabu has always paid the most attention to him, and if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have called him out today. Horikita questioned why it was always Kiyotaka. She then stood up slowly complaining about this. Kiyotaka then wanted to confirm something with her, and told her about the contract with Kushida. She found this stupid, but Kiyotaka only did it to gain her trust. Kiyotaka added signing this contract will not affect them in the future, because if Kushida drops out now, the risk would be 0. She thought this was a joke, but no. Kiyotaka had planned to get Kushida expelled before, but now really thinks it would be for the best. He was not joking, and this summer he will get rid of her, but wanted to leave the decision to Horikita. The possibility of her falling to the bottom of the class was very low, so there was no need at the moment. She was still contributing a lot, they thought. Horikita yelled all of a sudden questioning if Kiyotaka wanted to set her up during the class vote. At the moment, he was still in the process of thinking of ways to get rid of Kushida. Horikita decides to head back, but Kiyotaka says he'll stay here for a while. But today was the first time he noticed there was a filler installed in his heart or mind. The existence of a heart indeed had grown beyond his expectations this year. In fact, it was still growing right now. Will I still be at this school at the same time next year? The boy questioned. The pitch black darkness he couldn't quite describe wrapped around him. And with that, we end chapter 4. Probably my favorite chapter in all of the series emotionally. Like, goddamn, the last 2 of Volume 7 are amazing, but this, I gotta say, was nothing short of amazing. Having the farewell of Manabu is something really special to me, and well, makes your boy cry 9 times out of 10, I can't lie. I probably had to re-record this because I kept fucking almost crying while reading it. And paired with the fact that Horikita's growth really made me excited for the future of this series, and I really want to see Manabu again, and a fact that makes me curious to see how Kiyotaka will avoid the White Room after graduation. Because at the moment, he really has no hope when he's at the school. And he is growing as a person now, so I really do see him developing feelings of wanting to be free, When it gets to the end of the third year, I see him wanting to protect his freedom, but only time would tell. Phenomenal chapter though, I really don't have the words to describe it. All I know myself was that it was amazing. It's now April 5th and we take the perspective of Matsushita, who had recently become vigilant towards Kiyotaka. We learn a bit more about her. She was blessed with her attractive appearance. Well, I can't lie, that's true. She do be hot as fuck. She had plans for the future to go to a prestigious university, then work at an embassy what leads to the UN. Her life was going as smooth without failure. The only miscalculation was not being in Class A. She mentioned many people in Class D were at a low level, and if there are 2 or 3 more people on the level of Hirata or Horikita, then they may be able to reach Class A. She thought Kiyotaka was just like her, so one went to the school life just for themselves. He said including her, Class D would have 2 more cards to play. Her suspicion was caught on K as she was closer to Kiyotaka. She didn't know why. She didn't think it was because he was handsome. The only conclusion Matsushita could reach was that Kiyotaka had enough strength to make up for his lack of popularity. She then started to piece things together about Kiyotaka, like his standings with Horikita and Hirata in the class, along with the sports festival, and the protection points he got from Sakinagi. She knew the reason he made for becoming commander wasn't to make up for Yamauchi's expulsion too. There were many pieces she put together on the mysterious existence of Kiyotaka, but not many people were aware of this, as he's never shown his true self in public. And being able to run so fast is an outstanding ability, but this alone wouldn't mean much. She wanted to understand the mystery behind his true strength. That day she went to the mall with her friends, but these days she was on the lookout for Kiyotaka's figure. She wanted to get clues. Remember the girls, they talk about some people's abilities in the class, even going on the topic of who they like, or while Matsushita examined her opinions of people in her head. Sato then speaks about Kiyotaka and how she was turned down by him, but also thinks that she likes Kei, and Kei likes him. After all this, Sato continues to like that man. They start to talk about him and the little glimpses of power he's shown. Right before Sato was about to ask something, Matsushita caught Kiyotaka's figure and ran to make a call. Well, that's what she told the girls, but it was actually to chase after Kiyotaka. She saw Kiyotaka, and right before she was about to approach him, he saw someone else beat her to it. That being the acting director Shikishiro. She didn't understand why, so she hid and watched for 10 minutes and observed their long conversation. She would follow him for a little longer and then return to the girls. Now for Kiyotaka's side of things. While at the mall he ran into Shikishiro. To where Shikishiro just goes out with it. He says, "Oh Kiyotaka, why don't you enjoy this spring break, and then how about you go home to your father right after?" It was like he didn't care about where they spoke, he just wanted to get to his goal. Kiyotaka said he had no intention to drop out and he's enjoying his life as a student, and even wishes to graduate from here. Shikishiro mentions the girl following from his class, that being Matsushita. Shikishiro said this all while having his eye on Kiyotaka. It was only a moment, but he saw her hiding behind a wall. It seems Shikishiro was able to observe all of his surroundings, along with Kiyotaka in the process. He was a man of great skill, I'd say. Kiyotaka said he didn't expect him to know the students' names, to where Shikishiro said is one of his classmates, so it was nothing special. Probably showing the amount of research he's put on Kiyotaka's connections. He said Kiyotaka's level is abnormal at 16 years old, and he spent his past year without many problems, so he should just go home. Kiyotaka said he was still a child, so he wouldn't let it go so easily, and plans to resist to the very end. Shikishiro says he doesn't know about this school, but he definitely is not number 1. Amongst all the students in the White Room, after him, there are several who are equal, or even more powerful than him, and he should remember that he is a mass-produced person. Kiyotaka said if that's the case, there's no reason to pay attention to him. Shikishiro mentioned that would be the case if he wasn't the son of that man. Kiyotaka then asked what Shikishiro thought about the White Room's existence, whether it's necessary or not. He said he wasn't obliged to answer, but Kiyotaka said if he does, his opinion may change on all this. Shikishiro then said the White Room was built 20 years ago. Kiyotaka knew this as he was a part of the 4th generation, and the White Room have nurtured 19. Meaning hundreds of children have been trained under the White Room's education system. I wanna know like how the fuck you sign up to this shit. You go on like Craigslist and go on like a dodgy advert, be like, White Room, I wanna sign up to this, let me put my child in here. Kiyotaka wondered how much money had been invested into this facility. In short, the way Shikishiro felt about the White Room was both stupid and frightening. He mentioned the demonic 4th generation of the White Room and how all the students dropped out, but Kiyotaka. He then took out his phone and told Kiyotaka to call his father and tell him he wants to drop out. Kiyotaka said what he just said contains no lies. Kiyotaka mentioned that his depiction of him as a man who hides behind an iron mask, but today's conversation he's taken off that mask. Seems like there's no way to gain your trust, he replied. Sorry, said Kiyotaka. He asked Shikishiro to give up, and if he fails he will lose his father's trust, getting him reprimanded. You helped my father because you are scared of him, yet you say you're not afraid of failure? Which is it, said Kiyotaka. Yes, which is it? Replied Shikishiro. He then gave Kiyotaka a warning, saying from today onwards, his life at the school will be very difficult. He then asked if he wanted to play a game. A game? Kiyotaka questioned. When the next semester starts, I will make a child of the White Room and enroll as a freshman. Kiyotaka said if it was fine to do this, to which Shikishiro said it was fine and he should have thought of this as a possibility in the first place. He memorized what he said, but he did not believe the man. He asked how he can win this game for Shikishiro's. Now here's the game. There's a total of 160 freshmen entering the school next year. If Kiyotaka is able to pick out the one for the White Room by the end of next April, then Shikishiro will give up. How about it? He questioned. He agreed, but Kiyotaka added that he seems confident in the White Room students' abilities, but he was confident in one thing too. What thing? He questioned. The frog at the bottom of the well does not know the depths of the sea, but it knows the height of the sky, replied Kiyotaka, showing that because of how long he's been in the White Room, he understands the depth of it more than anyone else. No matter how many kids were taught in the same way, no one could reach his level. Whether it be the 3rd generation or the 5th generation, it stood the same. Kiyotaka said there were definitely people more excellent than he is in this world, but the White Room is different. In that world, no one is better than him. With confidence, he gave his answer and looked right at Sekishido. That pair of eyes is the same as your father, Sekishido said. Those eyes containing a deep darkness, something other excellent White Room students can't imitate. After having no means to continue the conversation, Sekishido left his presence. Now, if you're watching, I want to play a game with you. That's what I want to do. I'm going to be Sekishido, I want to play a game with you. This is a question, or maybe a game, as you should say, to anyone who hasn't read the series themselves. Because I know there's a few anime onlys watching and they're waiting for my videos for it to see how the series goes. So this is a question to all of you. When I start year 2, I want you to try and guess who the White Room student is. The reveal does happen sometime into year 2, so before then I just want you to guess who the White Room student is. Leading up to that, you guys can message me on Discord, you can follow my Twitter, or you guys just let me know somewhere else. I want you to play a game. If there's a prize involved, I'll let you know a little bit later, but it'll be fun, so let me know. With Sekishido gone, Kiyotaka turned his attention to Matsushita following him. He needed to know why. Speeding up, turning the corner, he prepared to ambush her. If she did not follow, he'd use K to deal with this. After 10 seconds, Matsushita turned the corner to catch up. Whoa, she shouted. She didn't expect them to be waiting. What business do you have with me? He asked. What business? What do you mean? Although that's what she would like to say, it seems she's been exposed. She said that there was a reason. Then asked Kiyotaka what he thinks. Kiyotaka says he didn't know and asked when she started following him. Just now, right? Just now? Kiyotaka said, cutting her off. He asked her another question to avoid her asking when he noticed. She said when he was talking to Sekishido, mixing in lies but also means she saw the conversation with him. She had a question for him, that being during the arithmetic test. He gave the same answer as Konji. He said during junior high he did a lot of mental tests and he's quite good. He said he's not quite good, but enough to compete on a national level, saying he already has in the past. After that, she said she saw him and Hinata on the bench and kept a distance because she saw him crying. But after that day, he came back to normal, she added. National level arithmetic speed, plus your running speed, and consoling Hirata during the class vote. Ayanokoji-kun, are you holding back? She questioned. Are you doing this because you want me to assist you in reaching class A? Kiyotaka asked. So you admit it, she replied. But it seemed like I am indeed holding back, to where Matsushita asked why. But Kiyotaka gave his classic answer about being a student who does not want to attract attention. She asked him to make more contributions to the class in the future, to lead the class to victory. Kiyotaka said to not use much from him, as he's already used 70 to 80 of his total strength. Wait, just now you said you were using 70 to 80% of your total strength? Is that true? He nodded his head, but Matsushita didn't seem to accept this. Then what about Kei? She asked. What do you mean? Asked Kiyotaka. She mentioned why Kei thinks he's so special, and why she broke up with Hinata. Kiyotaka said his relationship with Kei isn't ordinary. This was the same reason why Matsushita wanted to know his true strength. She asked if it was because she noted his strength and realized he's special. Kiyotaka that isn't related, but Matsushita said she doesn't think he's good at conveying his good intentions to make someone think he's special. He then shortened the distance between them. Grabbed her by the shoulders, Matsushita was dumbfounded. He caught her in a gaze and said this. Matsushita, I like you, please date me. What? She shouted. Her brain panicked for a moment, but Kiyotaka released his hands. If you would confess to like this, no matter what the result was, could you ignore it? It's a joke, So that's how it is. That's how it is, She now realized this was the only thing Kiyotaka could use. Mentioned Kei breaking up with Hinata being a coincidence. So that's how it is. She apologized for following him. Kiyotaka had one more request. I know. I won't tell anyone, no matter what. It was the thing about Kei. She already knew what he wanted to say. That was a pretty good one, I gotta say. Like, we got to see more of Matsushita, and she has a lot of layers to her, and I want to know more about her. And don't worry, we get to see her in a future volume, so she'll come up soon. As for the White Room stuff, it's really interesting lore we got there, and there's confirmation we are getting a White Room student next year, and I can't wait to show off all the kohais. Let the guessing game begin. And like I said before, anyone who doesn't read, watching this, let me know who you think it is. Whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on Discord, just DM me, let me know who you think it is. Now, let's wrap up this volume. We've still got one more special part left. Hope you're Andre. Now a few days later, there was only 2 days left of spring break. Kiyotaka had called Kei, but she wouldn't answer. Around 30 minutes after she called back, said he had something to discuss and asked if she wanted to meet in person. It was about the thing he remembered. Kiyotaka asked if they could meet. Kei said she had plans at 7, so she didn't have much time. While after, Kei was in Kiyotaka's room, but looked unhappy. So what is it, she asked. She said to make it quick as she's going out with friends to eat. Kiyotaka said there's plenty of time and not to worry. This is giving Kei a bad feeling. Right, I've got something to tell you, replied Kiyotaka. Sato-san is suspicious about our relationship, he told Kei. To which she replied saying she tried to get Kei to admit that she broke up with Hirata to date Kiyotaka. He then mentioned Matsushita, and how she had various doubts if he was really dating Kei. She went pale, and said she couldn't keep up with this all. She asked Kiyotaka what he thought. Well, he said it's fine to leave it alone. Kei disagreed, saying that there's nothing between them. Kei had a bit of the rumor spread that she broke up with her and had to date Kiyotaka, then it wouldn't look good on her. In other words, Kiyotaka was stopping her from getting another boyfriend. She continued asking him about Hiyori. You were close with this Shina? Shina? Oh, are you talking about Hiyori? Replied Kiyotaka. Yes, replied Kei. This is someone Kiyotaka called by their first name. Of course, Kei, Haruka, and ID joining that group of people too. It seems like Kei didn't expect Kiyotaka to have a relationship with someone from outside the Class C. We're pretty close after all, we both like reading books. After hearing that, Kei's face changed colour. So you've got the same interests. Reading books? God, Kei be jelly, huh? And so? Kiyotaka questioned. Kei got angry and raised her arm, was yelling at Kiyotaka, saying he's making her forget what she wanted. She mentioned if the rumor spread, then it would stop Kiyotaka from getting closer to Hiyori. I see, that's a possibility, he replied. With this, Kei stood up. She said she doesn't care who he wants to get close to. Kei about to leave says she needs to be motivated and doesn't have time for Kiyotaka, meaning she wanted to get a new boyfriend. Seems Kiyotaka overdid the teasing. He stood up as well and Kei thought he was seeing her off. No need, Kiyotaka says. He called out Kei's name. Kei, now what, she replied. If you don't like it, just ignore it. Huh? After showing some surprise, she would then pay attention to the words Kiyotaka would say next. Will you go out with me? He asked. Eh? Kei replied and frowned, not understanding as she looked back at him. What are you talking about? Where are you going? Kei completely misunderstood what Kiyotaka just asked. I don't mean that. I mean to ask you if you would go out with me, he said again. Kei still didn't understand. He looked into Kei's eyes and she accepted it. Wait, Kei said, asking what kind of joke this was. But this wasn't a joke. Kiyotaka was serious. Kei replied saying she thought he liked Hiyori, but Kiyotaka said he was just joking and wanted to see if she was jealous. Flashing back to where he called her to the caf, all of this was done to see if Kei would get jealous. She told Kiyotaka if this was a false confession, then this is his last chance to admit it. Of course it's not a joke, so let me hear your answer. Even if you say that, how am I supposed to? She yelled, stuttering. Kiyotaka said if you don't like me, then ignore me or reject me. She said why today of all days, to where Kiyotaka says he couldn't give a good reason for today, but he has a good reason for confessing in general. That being to prevent Kei from becoming someone else's girlfriend. So basically you like me, right? Asked Kei. That's right, I like Karuizawa Kei. Kiyotaka had wondered if the answer was truly from his heart, then asked for her answer. Kei sorted out of her feelings in her mind, then replied, well, I'll go out with you then. Can I interpret what you said as you like me? Asked Kiyotaka. Kei embarrassed asked if she really had to spell it out. Can you not answer, he asked? Kei asked to wait a second as her emotions were all over the place. How do I say it? To you, basically this is taking everything Kei had in her to say. Like her, rather than say that, her voice became softer and softer. I also like you. I don't want to say it, but I admit it. She finally replied. Kiyotaka stretched out his arms and gently held Kei's arms. Wait, don't tell me you want to kiss, she yelled. I don't plan to do that, at least for now, Kiyotaka replied. For now. Imagining that scene, Kei was motionless. It's like she was frozen. Kiyotaka embraced Kei in this state. This should be fine, right? He asked. While embracing Kei, he understood. But Kei right now must be feeling confused, anxious, and happy. Hey, haven't you grown a bit taller, she asked. Maybe, Kiyotaka replied. Before he came to the school, he measured at 176 centimeters tall. Growing during this year wasn't such a big deal to him. That was the same for the other students. People would grow. We're all creatures that love to learn. This was an instinct. Something like learning to swim or ride a bike. Just like that, Kiyotaka was learning to fall in love with Kei. Something he had not learned in life so far. Something that couldn't be learned in the White Room. There was an important reason why he chose Kei. His love was needed for her growth. Looking to next year, this relationship would be very important. Kei's way of survival as a parasite attached to a host would fail someday. So to prevent that, this was necessary. But then the boy asked another question to himself. For Kiyotaka right now, what expression did he have? Was he smiling? Was there a shy expression on his face? Or maybe a confused smile? He didn't know, and questioned what expression he was wearing. But no, he actually knew. The expression he had now, he knew what he was thinking of now, and knew what he planned to do. When learning, people feel joy in the process, no matter what it may be. When you make progress, you feel happy. It's the same with love. He still didn't understand love, nor what attachment was. In the near future, he would definitely learn the answer to these questions. Nothing would change, just by learning, growing up, and moving forward. In other words, Kei was like a textbook for Kiyotaka to the opposite sex. When he finished reading, its purpose would have been served. Or, was there a different future awaiting the boy, not leaving Kei's side and becoming an irreplaceable existence for her? He didn't know. There was a part of him that hoped for that, and a part of him that understood that this wasn't possible. So let's pray, he thought, praying in a moment right now, holding an important person in his arms. He prayed, swearing he would treasure her. Gently embracing Kei, he quietly prayed. And that wraps up 11.5, the finale of year 1 of Classroom of the Elite. What an ending. Goddamn, like honestly, what an ending. I think they left off with the best chapter, if I'm honest. The hints of Kiyotaka sort of teasing Kei in the caf earlier was great. Nice seeds planted. When I first read this, I was actually so happy. I honestly didn't expect him to confess to Kei, and you know, like it was looking like he was going to pick Ichinose, but I wasn't even too sure. So I'm happy he picked Kei. Kei really would be number 1 in my heart. And I'm a sucker for romance, so I'm all for it. But I'm also a little scared at the same time, as I don't know how Kiyotaka truly feels, but I guess he truly doesn't know himself either. It's something we're gonna have to see within year 2 and onwards. I just hope him and Kei can progress and one day be happy together, but there are a lot of seeds planted what could come to haunt these two. But I have faith, and just like Kiyotaka, I'll pray. Now before I wrap up, there's one little extra volume short chapter thing. It's like 11.75. It's a phone call between Kiyotaka and Kei, so I'm gonna do it before this. So, let's get to it. It was one they left till the end of spring break. It was 10 PM and Kiyotaka's phone rang. He didn't need to confirm who it was. Karuizawa Kei. She was a classmate of his. And now someone who was more than a friend. In other words, his girlfriend. It had been a few days already, but they hadn't met or kept in touch. This is due to the fact that Kei still hasn't sorted out their relationship yet. He answered the call. Yahoo! After answering the call, Kiyotaka replied after a short pause. Ah, yikes, that's blunt, Kei replied. Really? No. Perhaps it was. He then said he was waiting for her call, wondering in his head if this sounded boyfriend-like. Here, Kiyotaka heard on the other side, along with a large scream and the sound of something being toppled over. It was Kei falling off her bed. Just if he was waiting, to where Kiyotaka says it's normal for a boyfriend to wait his lover's call. Kei said it didn't sound like anything he would say. Something what goes for both of them, really. To them, it didn't feel real that they were dating. Kei went on to talk about how she went out with friends to eat. All Kiyotaka could think about was their relationship, from one where they used each other to something different. Another world had been spreading out for his eyes. She asked if Kiyotaka was still listening, after hearing the lack of adequate replies. I hear you, he replied. Kei then asked if he has anything to share. After that, he wondered for how long he spoke. But when he did, Kei was listening, enjoying herself no matter what. Sometimes she laughed and sometimes she made a quick whip back at him. He checked his phone, and it was now 11 PM. They had been talking for an hour. He said it was best to end the call soon. That's true, said Kei. She seemed to understand. After all, school would start tomorrow, and the two would progress into the second year. See you tomorrow. Good night, Kiyotaka. Good night, Kei. Well then, she said, but didn't end the call. What's up, he asked. It's a bit hard for me to end it, replied Kei, asking if Kiyotaka can do it instead. Understood, replied Kiyotaka. And with no hesitation, he tapped the hang up button. I've died at this. Like, Kiyotaka does not care. Time to prepare myself for bed, he said to himself. Well, that was his original intention, but Kei called once again mere seconds after ending the call. What? You didn't even hesitate one bit. Why? The ear-splitting scream invaded Kiyotaka's ears. He had to hold his phone away but could still hear the yelling loud and clear. She said he should still show some hesitation, but Kiyotaka said it was normal to end the call, right? Kei didn't like this and asked if he had fun. Kiyotaka said of course he did, and this was the first time he enjoyed himself like this. Kei talked for a little longer and nitpicked, so this was a woman's heart, Kiyotaka thought. He wanted time to analyze it. Sometime after Kei's rambling, it was now 11:15 PM. He asked Kei to end it, and she agreed, but she asked him to do it properly this time. Properly, he questioned. To where Kei replied saying wouldn't he fulfill his cute wish from his girlfriend? A wish? Cute girlfriend, he replied? What, you have some complaints, she asked? No, not at all. Kiyotaka then got up, and he went to head for his computer, thinking he can find something on the net. Just so you know, browsing or anything similar won't do any good. I'm listening closely. She cornered him, reading his moves. Let's see, he said. He said it was sad to end the conversation, but that just means they could see each other tomorrow. She agreed and said she wanted to see him as well. Naturally, the desire to see one another would grow as more time passed. She said they may not get the chance to speak tomorrow at school, but she's looking forward to it. He ended the call, and Kei did not call back. As for the relationship, Kei chooses to keep it hidden for the time being. The chances to talk at school would be limited until someone makes this public. Kiyotaka's new school life was starting tomorrow. If only it could be as calm and peaceful as he wanted. We'll have to see. Okay, we're done with Classroom Elite. Second year, or first year, should I say. I started on volume 7, I did 11, now I just done 11.5. I've only done 3, but it feels like I've been doing this for a while, and it sort of seems sad to move on, but at the same time excited to do year 2. So this volume was the culmination of everything within the first year, and I felt it took the chance to close everyone's character in a nice way. In my opinion, this volume really highlighted the growth of Horikita, Suzune to be exact, and how she's grown throughout the year. Someone who was almost in her brother's shadow, who was in her brother's shadow, to a new her, or should I say the old her. Really beautiful stuff. And the scene with Manabu I spoke about earlier was near perfection, and I truly do love that scene. It's got to be top 3 in the series for me so far, within year 1 at least. Ichinose too. We saw she's had good growth, or more or less starting to get good growth. And I feel like there's a lot of foreshadowings in the stuff we saw with her, but we won't get that conclusion until later in year 2. But I'm excited to see where the author goes with her character, and interested to see the Ichinose in a year from now. Also with Yuen, we had the resurgence of his character coming back into the spotlight, and he seems to grow, taking on Kiyotaka's advice, and still being a badass at that too. Honestly, I love the interactions between these two, and I just want to see more of it. Now for Kiyotaka, he's in for some trouble next year. And to top it off, there's a White Room student coming in to get him next year. Year 2 is really fun, and I can't wait to show you guys this guessing game. But with Kiyotaka's growth, I honestly loved it this year. We get even startled moments where he acknowledged it too. Just as the growth of a heart, and now being with Kei, he will continue to learn and, well, continue to grow at the same time. Into someone who is maybe just a normal student. We just have to wait and see. That's all I really got to say. I gave my thoughts after almost every chapter, and overall, I loved year 1. My enjoyment of it was a 10 out of 10. If I have to critically rate it, I'm not too sure. It'd be like pretty high still. And I really can't wait for year 2. I really can't show you, like, wait to show you guys year 2 and show you what it's all about. Now, for year 2, let me get this straight, right? So I've read volumes 1 to 4, and there's 6 at the moment. You can also count 4.5. So I've read volumes 1 to 4. So that means I've got volumes 4.5, 5, and 6, and then 7's coming out sometime in July. So those are all fresh. I've not read those, and if y'all gonna spoil me, please don't. Put a spoiler tag in the YouTube comments, because I don't want to see anything in year 2 after volume 4, pretty much. I'm pretty sure I want to read them on stream, so if y'all want to catch it live with me, follow the Twitch in the description, as well as to keep updated. Follow my Twitter. I'm a lot active more on Twitter now, or just join the Discord. I'm always active there, and I'd love to talk to all of you about Class Unit Elite, or any other series you guys want to talk about. Now, that's really about it, so I'd appreciate if you guys like and sub. Try and get this video to, I don't know how many likes, maybe like 500 likes again, or maybe 1k likes. We'll try and get to 1k likes if it gets enough views at least, but yeah, try and aim for 1k likes now and get out year 2 as soon as possible. Now, that's really about it. So I'll see you in the second year.